viewers, welcome back, and we are joined by the one, the only John Meyer from SP Angel. Hey John, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, nice to see you.
And nice to see you too. I adore patching through to, because I see all these, you know, amazing rocks and minerals behind you. Talk us through what you have behind you over there.
We got pieces of spodumene which contain lithium, some very good copper samples, some very high-grade copper there, some tin. We collect different sorts of ores and cores from around the world. It's just stuff that we pick up as we go around.
I'd love to be there when your luggage goes through security and, like, you know, everything goes off. Beep, beep, beep.
We've had a few moments when we've been stopped and asked for our papers.
Speaking of which, I've got a picture of you in Zimbabwe. This is fascinating. All of our clients and our trader friends here know that you do a lot of traveling. What is this picture, and why is there a huge hole where there seems to be a bridge or a platform?
So this is on the Kavango mineral licenses, and this is an artisanal working. And in fact, the local guys who are, well, they're not quite digging by hand. They are using explosives. But they use this very, very rudimentary and crude, simple way of getting, of dropping into the workings in order to get at the gold. And in fact, these guys are really good miners. I mean, it's not the safest way of doing things, and it's definitely not modern. You know, it's not a modern way of mining. But this is how it was done traditionally. It's a metal head frame. You've usually got a small motor, and that helps to, which is a winch. You drop people down into the workings, and they dig away. And they a lot of it's by hand. And then once a day they'll blast because the rock down there is very hard. But they get a lot of gold out.
And is it? Are there lots of people hiding behind, and I can't see them, or is it really just like a one-person, one-man band there?
Usually they work in groups of 4 or 5. As you know, they work in teams, and they're very effective. So there'll be about 4 or 5 guys underground, relying on that guy at the top to get them out at the end of the shift.
Nice. That guy's got a really no pressure then.
Yeah, no pressure.
Right.
Well, these guys can climb out without the winch, but the winch is helpful for bringing up the ore.
Right. Let's move on to stocks and commodities now, because, you know, we've had silver really heading higher. Gold seems to have eased off a bit at the moment, but gold's still up 0.5% there. What is your outlook at the moment for gold? Are we still seeing this sideways pattern, or are we going to see a move, a breakout move sometime soon?
I think given Donald Trump's big beautiful bill and the likelihood of that to cause the printing of a lot more US dollars, and the fact that just about every other European country is likely to have to print more cash as well, we see gold breaking out on the upside. Gold is your hedge against inflation, and inflation is not going away.
In fact, looking likely to have even more inflation pressures, right? Upward pressures. Yeah,
if nations print more cash, and I think they've got to cope with the amounts of debt that they have, and the fact that interest rates are at higher levels than anyone had expected. So yes, that ultimately that is inflationary. Whether you see that in the very short term is a moot point, because economies are struggling a little bit, but China's still growing, and everybody has to keep up. And part of the big beautiful bill is so that America can splash more cash and try and keep the pace with China.
So let's talk about whether or not one should lean into the fundamentals of this, or actually do you see more opportunities looking at gold producers, for example?
I think a lot of opportunity for gold producers, because, as I say, there aren't that many new gold mines in the world. The industry's been starved of cash for something like 12, 13 years now, a lot of explorers have been going, they've been forced to go slow. They might have good projects, but they've had to work on them very, very slowly. So the pace of new mine development is shockingly poor at the moment. And I think it will pick up, but we're just beginning to see the first signs of that. So, yeah, I think in a world where there's more physical cash, more paper money, people are going to look for hard assets. Gold, copper, silver, they're all good hard assets that people like to own. If you hold a bar of gold, you understand why you want to own it. So yeah, it's one of those asset classes that continues to do well. It performs in these times of uncertainty.
Let's talk about some of the names. Which ones do you like? I mean, there's Barrick Gold, there's Newmont. Which ones? There's also Newcrest. Which ones do you think have the best upside? For example, for those watching this space, thinking, well, I've traded the price of gold, but I want to look at miners now.
Well, we focus on the smaller companies. Barrick's not my favorite because, well, one, it's a very large company, but two, it's probably lost a key asset in Mali to the government. They've decided to seize that asset back, and in fact, they had a helicopter in there last week taking a ton of gold out of the vault. So that I don't think that's being so well managed. Newmont would be a better play on the larger side of things. But there are other companies, gold, copper companies I would go for. In fact, Barrick did change its name from Barrick Gold to Barrick Mining to highlight that transition. But on the smaller company side, I think there's quite a lot of little companies to look at, which, as I say, have been going slow, but actually have good growth opportunities going forwards, like Ariana, like SolGold. There's quite a lot of these things.
And for those of you watching, if you'd like me to try and get some of these CEOs from these mining companies, do let me know, because they travel widely, and also they often come to London for the Resourcing Tomorrow. We used to be known as Mines and Money, didn't it? I don't know why they changed their name, John, but it's now Resourcing Tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of competition in the mining conference sector. And there's the one-to-one group also manage conferences in London. And the original Mines and Money, I think, was a fantastic event. But it was very traditional in that everybody would troop into a room and listen to some expert speakers and occasionally myself. The format's changed. Everybody seems to want one-on-one meetings with the companies, and that's good. But once you've had 20 one-on-one meetings, it's quite difficult to remember the first one from the last one. So we prefer to actually spend more time individually with the companies. But yeah, they're good opportunities. If you pick 4 or 5 companies that you really want to talk to, I would say that it's a good focus. So use these events, use Resourcing Tomorrow, use one-to-one, and find out really what's going on. And for the thing about investing is always invest in a company that you trust and where you really believe in the management. That's the key bit, because good management can take a sort of a slightly rubbish asset and do great things with it. Look at Anglo Asian Mining, the most fantastic management team operating in Azerbaijan. The assets were never first class, but they have done brilliantly with those assets. And in fact, they're expanding fast in the world of copper going forward. So they've got a new mine that the government has asked them to develop a new mine with them. So I think it's a stock that will go up and up. I should say that we act as nomad and broker to the company.
Interesting stuff. We've got people chiming in on the chat as well. Fortet there saying another reason for gold to go up is that most of it has already been mined, at least what is economically feasible to mine. Do you agree with Fortet, John?
It's getting harder and harder to find the big world-class mines. So, yeah, I mean, Zimbabwe is a place where I think the next generation of new mines is going to come out, but nobody's going to throw billions of dollars at it right now. the government has a slightly onerous, I won't call it a taxation regime, but just a fiscal regime the companies have to work with. But it works. It's the gold assets are good, and the gold assets are developing in the right way. And in fact, the workforce is brilliant. As I say, these artisanal miners really know what they're doing. And you can't get that in lots of places in the world. You couldn't develop a mine on the outskirts of London and find a good workforce for it. It would be very difficult.
RSAC's also chiming in right now. And is it better to go for minus ETF? We have gold minus GBX or junior gold minus GBXJ. So that's a question for you. Do you have a preference?
Personally, I always invest in the underlying equities. I don't go for these basket instruments myself.
Interesting stuff. RSAC's, that is John's view. Also, we've got lots of people coming in onto the chat now talking about, top producing countries. Marcus Kane using AI there, saying, in 2024, China 380 tons, Russia 330 tons, Australia 284, and Canada following closely behind that, and the US. Yes, China is a big producer of gold there. Let's cross over to something that's been really hot recently, and that is copper. Right, so your outlook for copper, John. Lots of people here wanting to know what you think is going to happen in this space.
Before I start on that, just with reference to Russia and China, communist systems, when they start to run short of cash, they always use mining and resources, so mining and oil and gas, for revenue. They use it to bolster the coffers. And when money is running short, they forget to put money back into the mines. Mines will always fail if you don't continue to reinvest in them. We saw this during the Russian financial crisis. A lot of the mines effectively collapsed. And so this is something to watch out for. If the Soviet Union collapses financially, then those mines will start to fall apart and the production coming out of them will fail. Now, we don't see that with China right now, but it's always a possibility going forwards. As governments should never run mining projects or mining companies. It's only real mining companies where the management is incentivized for longer term, shall we say, production that one should ever invest in. Anyway, going back to the outlook for copper. Yes. Yeah, look, I mean, the world needs a lot more copper because the world needs to electrify AI data centers. It needs to electrify everyone's electric vehicles. And there's an awful lot of houses that will need recabling as well. So there's no good substitute for copper, and that's an important thing.
Right, we have Rich McDonald here, who I know is very keen on copper.
Great to meet you, John. How are you doing?
Yeah, good.
I was especially interested there when you said about Anglo-Asian mining, and you're an expert in these smaller names. What would be your other names that you'd be particularly interested in at the moment that our viewers can get involved in?
Oh, I hate being put on the spot. Well, we're quite. Yeah, it's very difficult to remember.
I know you said you like Newmont in terms of a bigger sized one.
But if you could have anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. Newmont it's always been a class company. I mean, not to say that Barrick is a bad company, but it's just it's undergoing an unfortunate situation in Mali. But they also want to get involved with building a huge copper mine in Baluchistan in the north of Pakistan, which I think is going to be a very, very difficult thing for them. But there are other good players around. I mean, there's I tend to think of the mines more than the company names when I'm under pressure. But Resolute we quite like, but it's a UK and Australian company. They've been operating in Mali, but they have other operations. And Sarabi. Look at Sarabi. They're a good little company operating out in Brazil. That seems to work well for them.
In terms of commodity choice, John, what order of preference would you put in where you think there's strong fundamentals in commodities?
Well, for me, I always want to buy copper. Tin is another one. Tin is a bit more. It's a bit more of a wild commodity because it's less liquid, it's less well traded. But it does that you can't get tin from many parts of the world. And in fact, the Cornish tin mining industry, if we look at South Crofty, the old South Crofty mine, which is where I started my career.
Carlo Verda, knowing his tin stuff, Carlo Verda in the chat saying tin South Crofty. You from that region by any chance?
I'm not from that region, but that's where I started my mining career. So Cornish Metals is the company, and I'm very proud for the fact that we act as nomad and broker for them. So yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to the restart of that mine. There's lots of tin down there. There's no doubt about that, and they are getting on with it. They're certainly pushing ahead. They've been broadening the expertise within the team. And having that expertise is all important. And there are a lot of, they finished mining, and that mine finished at the end of the 90s. So there are guys around who know how it works. And the good thing is they actually started using some very new modern mining techniques in the last few years. So we know that those techniques work underground. It'll give us a very good idea on the economics going forwards.
Speaking of economics, you talked about copper earlier, and you said Rich was asking you out in the order, which ones you would go with most. You said you really like copper, everyone should have copper. Do you like the fact, John, that copper, in terms of Chinese demand, has seen a bit of a bounce recently? I mean, is this just a blip, or do you think it's a longer-term trend that there's going to be more demand from copper from now on?
I think there's definitely a longer-term trend for more demand. As I say, electric vehicles and data centers are just two of the key drivers. But there's, national grid systems need almost rebuilding. I mean, we all rely on electricity for just about everything we do these days, and if the grid network has to be robust. And yes. We have two-phase electricity that we all use. If you want to run a heat pump and an electric vehicle, you need three-phase electricity. That means you need recabling. So there's a lot more work to be done to make sure that consumers get the power that they're going to want going forward.
Why has it struggled so much, though? Because I know, Goldman's were talking about this in 2022, and we've been waiting for copper, and the only thing that's ended up driving it is a bloody tariff on top of it. Well, why is the surplus not been eaten away yet?
Well, the mining industry is always trying to grow. So we had about 3% growth in copper production last year. If anything, I think we're going to see a deficit by the end of this year, and in fact, we'll almost certainly see a deficit in Asia, because so much physical metal has been dragged into the US. That metal's gone to the US because of premium prices out there, largely on the back of Donald Trump's Section 232 tariff investigation on the copper industry, which is madness, let's face it. I mean, the idea of having huge copper tariffs between America and the rest of the world doesn't make sense to those of us who are looking at it. But it is creating this enormous distortion. And so a lot of metal that the Chinese would have wanted to use to expand their grid systems, to connect more solar farms, more wind farms, and more nuclear power stations, is now in America. So they're going to have to work even harder to find that metal.
Yeah. And to illustrate what Rich was saying, just showing up this chart to show you, the one thing that's actually caused, this copper futures to jump there, which is these tariffs. So overall, though, there's a lot of data points there showing that you'll just see all this additional cost being passed on to consumers. Is that your expectation, John?
Yeah. Well, yes, I'm afraid it will be inflationary, certainly in the United States. And it probably creates a little bit of inflation elsewhere in the world.
Would you still go on the LME then, if for our guys that were looking at trading it, or the HGA's now COMEX is underpinned, or how would you play it? Or would you go for some of the smaller names that are leveraged into it?
I think Trump is going to have to unwind this tariff proposal. I mean, they haven't actually come out with what the real tariff is, but I think they'll have to roll back on it to a very large degree. So I would be buying the LME and selling COMEX, but that's
okay.
What do I know? I'm not a professional copper trader.
Yeah, and then what about the companies that are leveraged into this potential move if we do go into deficit?
Well, certainly they'll do well. Antofagasta, Rio Tinto, Glencore, BHP, they're all very, very well placed to benefit from this, and even Anglo Asian mining.
So Anglo Asian mining, is that sort of full copper, or what's the breakdown, John?
They are transitioning from gold to copper, partially because of the resources they're working on, and because of the new mine that they'll be restarting next year. So what are they going to be? They'll end up 2/3 copper, 1/3 gold, I think, in the next few.
And that's with new production coming on next year.
Yes, yeah. So I'm kind of making a bit of a guess. I'm not the analyst on that stock, but it's definitely going in that direction.
And then what about generally? So obviously BHP tried to take a grab on Anglos for their copper. Do you think there'll be more M&A because of the outlook of over the next few years, and what a struggle it is to get production online?
Well, what we see in the industry is if any new copper project comes along and it looks like it might turn into a world-class project, it gets acquired very quickly. And we see this time and time again. So it's important to, we've got a team of guys looking around the world trying to keep an eye out for what's promising in this world. I mean, not just copper. We're looking for gold mines, tin mines, silver mines, that sort of thing. But that's where the money's made.
Just switching over to platinum, R6Senna asking if you had any thoughts on Sylvania Platinum.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because hybrid vehicles have given PGMs, platinum, palladium, rhodium, ruthenium. It's given them another lease of life. We all thought that electric vehicles would really see the end of these sorts of auto catalysts, but actually it's not working that way. Hybrids are working well for now. Electric vehicles have still got a way to go before they beat hybrids in terms of many performance metrics. So it's definitely PGMs are going to do well for a while, and because of the situation.
What is your duration? Because there was this expectation that it would do well, and then Trump 2.0 happened, and then it pretty much took its foot off the pedal.
Yeah, I mean, certainly while Trump's in power, they're not going to be pushing electric vehicles in the States, and in fact they tend to drive bigger mileages in the US anyway. So EVs have got a way to go before they really crack the US market. And let's face it, petrol and diesel engines have become increasingly efficient. So the benefit is less than it was. I mean, I'm still a huge fan of electric vehicles. My next car, I'm sure, will be electric, but I'm still waiting for better battery range. I won't say better reliability, but there's, the motors are becoming more efficient, the control systems are becoming more efficient, and the batteries are just getting better and cheaper. So why not a little bit?
RK asking, any thoughts on MP materials? And
so we're on rare earth now. Yeah, look, rare earth, really important business, because we need rare earths for the permanent magnets. And Tesla tried using non-permanent magnets in their cars, and they very quickly rolled back from that. Your car will be much more efficient. It'll work much better if it's got permanent magnets in the motors and in all the other control systems as well, the door locks and stuff like that. So yeah, MP materials, not a bad idea. You've got Macango, you've got Rainbow Rare Earths, and there's something called Ionic in Australia. So there are a few companies out there that are working on rare earth processing. So they're all working on the reprocessing of waste materials, recycled materials. So Macango, where we act as nomad and broker, is one of those. And the stock's done well recently. It's there's so much going on in that space. And I do think actually Rainbow will go better, because Rainbow, at some point they're going to get that processing, that mineral processing bit right, and then I think they'll become an important company.
John, thank you so much. I think we could talk all day on the. It's such a great sector.
Telling lots of people that you will get to those questions, and I will get those questions to you over email, and then get them back to our clients. But it's such an interesting space. We just don't have enough time.
Last question would be: do you think, back in the day, obviously we had the Mick Davis was the one that used to really drive the M&A in the sector. Do you think there's still M&A to be done in the big names?
Oh, there's loads of it. Yes, I think BHP will come back for Anglo. They are all looking around for assets to buy. They've got lots of cash. I think they definitely. I mean, I know you can earn huge rates of interest very easily by investing in treasuries, but ultimately everybody needs some proof against inflation. They need a hedge there. And the mining companies, it's their business to develop mines. So they've got to find new mines to develop. And we talk to the guys in the exploration teams at Rios and BHP and Anglos, and they tell us what they're looking for. They are very, very busy out there looking for the next wins.
Right. And that Anglos tick some boxes there.
Well, Anglos is an easy way of acquiring a lot of copper production. If you think copper prices are going up, if you think you can improve the portfolio, Anglos is a very easy win. And maybe the Glencore go for it. It doesn't have to be BHP.
And sorry, as I say, I could keep asking questions of course, but that's golden, and Axel's going to drag us out. John, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, John. We are so lucky to have you here so that we can ask you all these amazing questions. Tons more. We'll get them emailed to you, and then I'll get it back to our clients. Thank you so much, John. We'll speak later.
Thank you.